Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For my Tricks and Traps University students, our next training program will be on the 10th of April. I think it's 9 p.m. UK time, and that's a Sunday. And that subject will be dealing with narcissism and psychopathy. And that's what this broadcast is about, me explaining the importance to the wider world as well, that they comprehend and understand the other species, what is known as human, that they live with. Psychopaths and narcissists and their various other derivatives, I'm sorry about the mispronunciation, are incredibly toxic and very destructive. So much so they can take your life. And in the minor case scenarios, they can destroy your business, your livelihood. You folks understand that. You know that. Now, I want you to just close your eyes for a second or two. Actually, a little bit longer, I think, will be better. Close your eyes. Imagine that you are in a wilderness. Okay, you're in a wilderness. And in that wilderness, you have images of animals that exist there. You're aware that it may make bears there and even lions and tigers, depending upon which country you're in, of course. But you think, and you're very comfortable in the wilderness of, say, Canada, US, Africa, because you know that there are predators in Africa, just as there are predators in Canada and in the US. And you also know that there are stealth animals there. That means they will predate on you, and you, of course, are their prey in stealth mode. In other words, these are lambs in sheep's clothing. Sorry, I beg your pardon. They are wolves. Sorry about that. They are wolves in lamb's clothing. Now imagine that you now have a very good idea of what species you're up against in the wilderness, but nobody ever told you that there is another species out there. Another species that is stealth, extremely fast, and it's able to camouflage itself while it stalks you. And it'll use all manner of tools to be able to successfully stalk you, to get close enough. Sorry about that. I have to sometimes turn away and monitor my own screen as to what is happening. Because in the early days, I used to get a lot of interference. And I'm still kind of paranoid, as it were, that I'll get interference now. Imagine that the textbooks don't speak of this other species that's out there. Not only is there just one of them, but there are a multitude of other species that you have not heard of. In other words, the wilderness that you've just entered is actually unknown to you, and the species out there are not bears and tigers, as it were, but many more other species. That is the other species of men that look upon you as the victim, as their prey animal to live upon. Narcissists and psychopaths and their various other cohorts, if you like, what they call flying monkeys. To them, they think like they are predators of their own species. It is like a tiger or a wolf looking upon other wolves as prey animals, something that they should predate on. I don't think that type of behavior exists in other parts of the world or in the animal kingdom. But there are so many things which are so very, I would like to say unique, but I don't think it's unique. That would be too much of a good word to waste on these things. there are some peculiarities about human beings that makes them cannibalistic. And there is about 2% of them that are hardcore in your society. And that 2% control near enough around about 20% of other people around them to be able to bring their victims to them and to do their works for them. What you know as the minions. You see, when I cracked the code on the Church of England as to what it means and who they are and what they are, I cracked the whole bloody damn thing, which I have yet to share with all of you. Certainly I've shared it with my judges, just in case the knowledge gets lost. Their traits, whether it's an individual in your life that's just stole $20 or whatever it is out of your wallet, is identical in every way right up to governments. It's just that when their intelligence and their ability to commune with each other, to look upon you as prey animals like wolves gathering to hunt down a pack, is how they behave. But they are predators, whether they are solitary or as a group. And their one purpose is to cannibalize on their own species. There are no cannibalistic species on this planet that I know of, apart from humans. That's why they call them humans and human rights. The point that I'm making is lack of knowledge and the ability to deal with them is what's killing off mankind, as it were. You know, as the Bible would say, or the Gospels would say, it is for the lack of knowledge do my people perish. And you're perishing from these predatory animals, which are cowardly, and they know it, which are liar, and they know it, which are liars, I beg your pardon, and they know it. And the list, of course, all of these subhuman standards and subman standards they practice openly. You're witnessing it on the BBC, in the newspapers. I think you now get it, that your entire world is actually a lie. You understand? The economy is a lie. Bank of England is a lie. Politicians are a lie. Everything that you thought was sacred is actually a lie. And there is one group of species that we know of that does this openly as well as covertly, what is known as covert narcissism and covert and overt narcissism, psychopath, etc. Knowing how they operate and how to stop them is what the course is going to be about. You see, all things that are derived from psychiatry and pharmaceutical all deal with what is known as treatment. Treatment quite literally means to look after something. That's what treatment means. So if you've got, say, an illness, like a C-word cancer, as it were, when the hospitals offer to treat it, what is it that they're asking you to do? Are they saying that they're going to treat you, or are they going to treat the cancer? And if they are going to treat that illness, that cancer, what is it that they're saying they're going to treat? Because treat means to look after. If you gave your dog a treat, what is it that you're doing? I think you get it. So in that sense, all of the psychiatrists, psychologists, registered, unregistered, with the exception of the ones that work in the private, as well as the private counsellors, they're the only ones that really give you a solution as to how to deal with them. The rest of them teach you what is known as mitigation. Mitigation is this. Say that I live with a narcissist, or my next door neighbor is a narcissist or a psychopath, and they constantly provide a constant, I have no way of expressing it except repeating myself, barrage of abuse in all manner of ways, theft, throwing garbage over into my garden, telling lies about me, vandalizing my car. That's what they do. But they don't, if it's like on a governmental scale, it's like sabotaging the entire economy and destroying you and your life and living off of it, which is what the Federal Reserve Bank is actually designed to do. It's actually designed for the dollar to collapse so it can zero out all the value of the dollar in your bank account. This is what the ultimate game of a narcissist and psychopath are, is to rob you of your life energy because they got none of their own. You see, the widespread counselors, therapists, and so on and so forth out there only teach you mitigation, which is how to deal with the constant abuse and the throwing of the garbage onto your backyard and etc., rather than putting an end to the narcissist and psychopath permanently. So they will teach you how to deal with a thorn in your arm, or a blister in your hand, or a scald on your skin, like a hot burning from a hot boiling water. But they will never teach you how to pull out that thorn and go after that freak that put the thorn there to begin with. They'll teach you how to mitigate their poison by taking antidotes if they can, if they're good, but never to deal with the one that poisoned you. You see, when I realized the pharmaceutical industry was actually a narcissist with a license, a psychopath with a narcissist, I was no longer interested in their medications and mitigating their medications or disqualifying their medications. I was interested in going after them and pulling the rug under their feet, as it were. And I did that for many countries, including myself. I'm not interested in the manifestations of a narcissist or a psychopath. I'm interested in that which will smash them over their head and bring them to an end. The smashing, of course, is metaphorical. You see, in our society, you know that the evil is rewarded and the good is punished. You know to tell the truth will cost you your life. It can cost you your life, your home, your house, your job, so on and so forth. But lying about it will keep you in that job. That's the world that you live in. And that's rapidly coming to an end. So what that means, the institutionalized narcissists and psychopaths and their various other derivatives, which I still can't pronounce properly, are on the streets, including the judiciary, including the lawyers, the solicitors, because their world is coming to an end like hours, not years. It's coming to an end in hours in each country in the world. That's why the Ukraine parliament is fighting back so much, because they wish to maintain the illusionment of lies, etc., because that's what they live on. It is quite a eye-opener. It is quite a imaginative world, or on your part, it's quite an imaginative process on your part to be able to comprehend that your politicians, media, the banks, the banknotes, anybody and everybody in an official capacity, which counts in their millions, are bloody liars. And they're working against you, including the judiciary, the executive and legislature, until you reverse that. I've asked Alex to put together that course because he has the capacity for that final solution. How to identify them and bring them to an end. I'll share a personal note with me, how I tend to work. You see, I've been wanting to put a course like this together for many years, but I felt that I did not have some of the vital knowledges, some of the vital pieces of information. It was taking a long time together. But Alex had it, so I asked him to do it. So in preparation for myself, previously before I approached Alex, was that I actually hired some narcissists and psychopaths. You can hire them, like you can hire artists and executives as well. What they will do is they'll give you an insight as to who and what they are. Yeah, and there are books written by psychopaths and narcissists for this very purpose. Understand they also get a kick, a rush out of exposing other narcissists, if you know what I mean, because they feel that they are the bigger boy in the pack. But as long as you know how to handle them, and certainly I do, and I've had to learn that, being what I am, Chief Federal Postal Court Judge, Plenipotentiary Judge, and so many different things that I do on a daily basis. I have to deal with these subspecies on a regular basis, which I've become very good at dealing with. What they told me is this, and I always hire them as individuals and they're never known to each other. They provide incredible insight as long as they feel that they are the center of attraction. Once they stop being the center of attraction, I just simply sack them. Yeah. What they said is this: Mark, you know those people that stole from you, etc.? They did that because they thought you was a coward. It's because they thought you will never identify them or go after them. And what you have to do is prove them wrong. You have to identify them and go after them, and then they begin to defecate themselves. If they're covert narcissists, that means they completely and utterly rely upon stealth. If you identify them in the wider world, they get so frightened because their covert mask has come off. When you take a narcissist's mask off, they get so frightened because what's underneath that is just a featherless canary. That's all. It's a featherless canary pretending to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a Velociraptor or something like that, out of Jurassic Park. They're actually freaks. I mean, they really are freaks. The point I'm making is that once you overcome your need to become reserved, once you overcome your need not to be embarrassed that you have fallen victim to these people, you'll know what to do. You see, the number one mistake that I made, actually there are several, but one that stands out for the purposes of this audience, is that when you let them get away with it, they have already found themselves another victim. And that victim can easily become your grandmother or your little babies, because they target them as well. And if they are abusive sexually as well, you've just bought yourself a whole heap of problems. You understand what I'm saying? I'm going to share some things with you that is, away from the subject later on in this presentation. But before I do that, I want to be able to share this with you. What you're looking at is a famous movie, a black and white movie called Gaslight. These colourful terms, although they have a great deal of dramatic reach, is just substitute for real words that are out there called, and this one particular one is called an alter casting personality, spelled A-L. What that means is that these people, as well as governments, including the BBC and news medias, they alter things so much that what was standing and looking at you at 0 degrees on a geometric level playing field, they manage it with a twisting of the words for you to look at it from a totally different perspective and turn the good into the bad and the bad into the good. So that's one of the things that the BBC would do about me, which they've done successfully. That's how effective they are. You understand? So they take me and portray as being something other than what I am not, what they call effigying. Create an effigy of me, and then you, the audience, gets to hate that effigy. Whereas that effigy is like an altered, it's an altered personality of what I truly am, or character. You understand what I'm saying? These are some of the common tools that individual narcissists and psychopaths will use. Highly effective, incredibly deadly. It costs my little baby brother's life. Let me show you a picture of him. That's him. Let me put you on big screen. That's him. He was a total angelic. But years of abuse of these narcissists and psychopaths finally took his life. The end result of a narcissist or a psychopath's rush is taking of a life. What do you think the wars are about? These people print all the money they need. Yeah. You understand? It's more than money. It's the rush they get out of it. This is David Wayne Miller. You know him. He's the founder of that flag. Correct sentence structure, parsing, syntax, grammar flag, which is the communication tool of this planet. A language so perfect, it's likened to mathematics out of a calculator. Subject to narcissistic abuse because he was trusting and generous. Cost him his life. The names of which you already know. Have no mistake, ladies and gentlemen. It is highly self-neglecting and stupidity on your part if you neglect this species that exists with you in your backyard. I know it because I've met, out of the thousands that I've trained, about 12 or 13 of them. Each one nearly, cost me everything. Yeah, because we are trusting. We work on what is known as trust. And they find that a weakness. And that's why things like Bitcoin are such a wonderful tool, because it's a trustless system, which means you no longer need to trust anybody to do anything, because you don't need to. And that's one of the mechanisms that they get in, is they use trust. They know that trust is a fundamental part of our world. Yeah. And that's how the banks got in. So the creators of Bitcoin, whom they will reveal themselves, you're going to get a surprise, made it trustless for banking to take out the narcissists and psychopaths in it. You understand what I'm saying? They've not made it trustless for other elements, because one of the binding tools of mankind is trust and faith. But those instruments that have been hijacked by these narcissists, institutionalists, narcissists, and psychopaths, they just turned on a button and made it trustless. So you no longer need the middleman. The middleman is always supposed to be the trusting party. But that's the weakest link. So they went and took that and dominated it. Like the fiduciary capacity, which is a trust position. So that's one of the first ones they destroyed, called a judge. The others, of course, are things like the pharmaceutical. That's called a doctor, not a physician. The other element is called a priest or a father or a reverend. So they destroyed that. That's a trust position. That's a fiduciary position. So people have no faith anymore in their trust positions. Solutions were created. As we go on months into this period of corona, other species will reveal themselves to you. We're not the only species that live on this planet. There are others. But no way are they going to allow themselves to be known while you're still entertaining psychopaths and narcissists. Still falling, as I have done so, for wolves in lamb's clothing. To move out of that, to educate ourselves and school ourselves out of that, in order to reach for better levels of understanding and to be able to contract and do business with these other species, you need that transition. When you've made that transition in psychology and you now start to think about quantum grammar, you now be able to communicate with these other highly evolved species. I say evolved. Such a thing doesn't exist. It was all just made up, like dinosaurs and the rest. It's just mind-boggling. I loved dinosaurs. I loved evolution. I had to give it all up because it was a bloody blatant lie. You see, these subspecies have run wild on our planet for over 150 years and within their city-states for probably thousands of years. Like the city-state of Babylon, city of London, Westminster, Washington, D.C., financial districts, they're all city-states, Vatican, etc. Their days are gone. And you need to know if they don't have an institution to hide behind, they're going to be in the streets and looking for individuals. They're already doing it in the NFTs world. Yeah. Look, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eminem. Yeah. Listen to this song and see if you can understand it. Yeah, this is proprietary work for my Tricks and Traps students. It's quite of an eye-opener. I mentioned that Putin commissioned a Tower of Babel out of firewood 23 meters high and burnt it down. This is it, yeah? What he's saying is that the Olympians are now dead. The Babylonians, the ones that said, let us go forth, let us, which is plural, as opposed to singular, and confused them. So you and I can never really communicate or do business with or construct anything. That's the story of Babel. He commissioned it and had it burnt down to say the end of the Babylons are here. The fiction, calling itself Elizabeth II, will try to put a platinum crown called the Platinum Jubilee on her head, which is symbolic of your crown, of your corona, yeah, of your corona, of your corona in your eye, of the sun, the corona in the sun. She'll try to do that. My job will be able to stop it. And I need your help with it, because the more of you buy into the system of feudal lords, the harder it is for me, because it's your ignorance that perpetuates this. Yes, I appreciate you subscribers out there know all these things already, but the others, they don't. If you share this knowledge, what I'm doing with you, share this with somebody who doesn't know, you've just doubled the figures. Just as Bitcoin was just an unknown thing 3-4 years ago, now everybody wants a wallet. You understand what I'm saying? And if you guys want to know how to get a Bitcoin wallet and things like that, just go to my website. The information is there. Okay? Look, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a most extraordinary period in life. We can't have these parasites following us around. It's time to get rid of them. And that's what that course is about on the 10th of April. My conviction on this is, have I communicated this to you, that the narcissist psychopath, whether they're in the government or in your family or your next door neighbor, their ultimate climax is to take your life. And before they do that, is to destroy you in every which way they can, financially, sexually, verbally, business-wise, family-wise. Everything that they can destroy is what they are doing. And that has been your history of the world for nearly 160 years, when the Olympians, which are the gods that you worship, when you say, our Lord, you're basically saying, King of England, because that's what Lord means. Didn't know that, did you? When it says Church of England, that's another way of saying Lord of England. When you say Lord Jesus, you're basically praying to one of the lords out of the Houses of Commons. Did you know that? That's how these freaks work. Yeah, it's quite an extraordinary thing for me to say these things, because I have 100% knowledge behind it. Look, let me just go off subject a little bit and show you the value of just a very small skill. This is a calculator. Let me go on full screen for you. This is a calculator. Learning to use 10% of its functionality, like basic arithmetics, will make you numerate, so you can sack your accountant who works for the Inland Revenue or IRS. But they charge you for them to work for somebody else. How do you like that? That's the thinking of a narcissist. I'll paraphrase it. You go to work, okay, and you pay him. You, the family, pay the man to go to work, but you are paying him and not the factory that he works for. In other words, you have to go and get a job, and the family needs to go and get a job and give it to the father as payment for going to work for free in the factory. How effed up is this? That's what an accountant does. That's why they're called accountants. Accountant means no counting. When you learn to use just the fundamentals of this, or when you go around about 10% of this calculator, or any calculator, you will have the numerology, the numeracy, I should say, to be able to use one of these. And when you can combine this with this, you are now known as a scientist. This measures space. This calculates space. Yeah? And when you measure twice, which are called fail-safes, measure twice before you cut, like a good carpenter, you've now created efficacy, and you have self-certified your own work. These are the tools of the greatest of all scientists. And there it is. That's the power of these tools. How many of you out there are electricians? How many of you that are electricians, as well as their family, know that man or a woman that's an electrician is actually a qualified scientist? How many of you even know the worth of what an electrician is? That's how ignorant people are. What does electricians work with? They work with live. That's called a live wire. It's called live because there's a thing that lives on it, that breathes and eats oxygen, and you call that ozone, like an ozone generator that you would wash your vegetables with, or meat, or purify water with. It's called life because it's alive and it has a symbiotic relationship in your body called electrical impulses. That's a living creature that has a symbiosis with you. That's the explanatory reach of a simple system that's already in place. Learn to use this and this in its most rudimentary form. You've already become a scientist. What's the value of a scientist in our society? They can engineer things. Really? Yeah, really. Look, ladies and gentlemen, when I, as a planetary judge, shines light on something, you get to see it with more clarity. Yeah. When I shine light on these two devices, it brings it alive. What's the value of this tool that can shine your way through life? What's the greatest thing that a narcissist or a psychopath, or in H.G. Wells' word, the Morlocks fear? Source of light. They run from it. Yes, the entire world of Morlocks will know that you're there, but they're frightened of a little tool like this. This is one of my greatest tools. It's one of my greatest tools, this torchlight, shining the light for you. These are simple tools, but the explanatory reach of it is beyond comprehension for most people. When you have the ability to see panoramically, 360 degrees, and the further your knowledge goes, the further your ability to see how that world works is what is yours. Like having a 360-degree understanding how economy works and politics allows you to navigate with great deal of skills in the world of commerce, politics, judiciary, legislative, and so on and so forth. When you lose your religion, you gain your faith, because religion means no people. And the priests and these fathers and archbishops, they're just narcs. That's all they are. That's what they call them, narcs. Like this particular one that passed away in South Africa, calling itself Tutu. Do you even know what that thing was? Rather than the thing that dances around for a theatre show? When you pick up a tool like this and you look through it, you can see much, much more than your normal eyes can. They can't see more than what your subconscious can. But for the conscious mind, this is a great deal of a tool, like a telescope or in this case, a binoculars. These tools are likened to education because it allows you to do exactly what these tools do visually, just as this does in conceptual-wise, mathematics. When you look at the details of things, ladies and gentlemen, when you move into the world of the narcissist or the document or the politicians or the paperwork, when you perform forensics on it, that's like you taking a magnifying glass. Look at me. You can see so much more just because of this magnifying glass. Yeah, so much more. You can see so much more. You get it? So when you look at things in detail, like the life of a narc or politics or the paperwork you get through, that's what you're doing. You're looking at its detail. And your ability to work in details as well as the panoramic is all part of your ready-born skills that were dulled and destroyed through a particular thing that they give you when you are born. Or cut the umbilical cord that causes the baby's blood pressure to drop because it's being robbed of blood and nutrients. You do that to a lamb, and the farmer sees you, he's going to beat you and wish to kill you, because you know that you're deliberately going to try to disable that lamb from growing properly and interacting with its mother. If the placenta does not empty itself out, you're going to get a disabled baby. One of my other greatest tools is this. Rather than artificial seals, it's the ability to put your seal, your creator's seal on a document. Bypasses the highest officials. That includes Elizabeth II and everything else, which are all legal fictions. When you become really good at what you do, especially the forensics work, getting at more detail, that's likened to having a microscope, looking at things that even a magnifying glass cannot look at. That's like you putting something inside of there, and that's called an insight. This other word for this microscope is called an insight. How many of you would pay $1 million to have an insight into economy? How many of you would pay $1 million or more to become legislative, executive, and the judiciary? That's the value of the tricks and traps. In that famous movie, which I forgot to send to my tricks and traps student, is that famous play by that Irishman, which I've forgotten. The Picture of Dorian Gray, I think it's called. You need to watch that, because in there they show you how they've got mankind living inside a mirror. This is called mirroring. This is one of their most famous tools. When they tell you there's a war in Ukraine and convince you bombing and shelling is taking place, which is contrary to what is actually happening, they've got you to believe in a lie. You understand? When that happens, you've entered the mirror world. That's the mirror world. And how much of that mirror world is magnified in you is the nightmare that the Canadians have found themselves in. I think you guys understand. I hope that I have successfully communicated my message to you. If I haven't, I'm sorry. I need to get better at what I need to do, i.e. verbal communications and etc., which I will be working on. Okay? Thank you very much for listening to me, and I'll see you guys later on. Look after yourself.